Next time on I Need a Hobby. And welcome to I Need a Hobby, a podcast. I'm this week's host, Alex, and to my left, on our last documentary episode, he accurately predicted what would become the Oscar-winning best documentary of the year, Chris.
Yo.
Nice job.
And to my right, on our last documentary episode, he accurately predicted what would become the Oscar-winning most boring documentary of all time, Andrew.
Hello.
Also true.
Nice job.
Yeah, I know. Both equal accolades, I would say.
All right, well, what's this podcast about? Put your hands down. I'll answer this one. This is I Need a Hobby. It's a podcast about challenges, hobbies, and activities. Every week, Chris, Andrew, and myself, Alex, do something, and then we tell you about it. Yeah, we're young bucks working hard at our jobs during the 9 to 5, but this podcast is all about the 5 to 9.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
How you guys doing today? Andrew, are you playing Flappy Bird mid-podcast?
I'm just preparing. I'm excited for this documentary episode.
I think we're getting so into the routine of it now we don't even look at each other.
Yeah.
As you guys might know, last time my documentary was so boring and bad.
Yeah, Tiny Houses.
Predicted to
all
be
right, well, here's what I'm concerned
one
about.
most boring documentary.
If you haven't listened to our documentary one episode, then don't listen to documentaries 2, The Return quite yet.
We all watched the sequel to our documentary in this episode.
Last episode,
right?
Andrew picked Tiny Houses, which is a good idea for this will be an interesting thing to tell about in the podcast. But it was one of the most boring podcast episodes we've ever had. And then Chris decides to say, "Oh yeah, I'll do the sequel to Tiny Houses, Minimalism."
See,
what on God's name are you thinking?
My goal was to
Yeah,
prove,
I agree with that.
My goal is to prove how great a podcast host I am. You know,
okay.
If I can make some content,
all right,
if you
all
can
right.
spin this,
the most minimalistic.
It's like
movie of
LeBron
all
James when he was like, "Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'll go back to the Cavs, that sucky team, and show you how
nice.
good I am."
Yeah, exactly.
Practicing for when you have to meet new people, Alex, you can talk about sports now.
LeBron and that sucky team he's on. Huh? I'm Alex. How the heck are you?
All right, well, I'm ready. Are we ready?
Let's get right into it.
Let's get right into it. We've been going long, so let's get. I mean, we all got a lot to say. Except Chris probably 5 minutes max, but
And this is gonna be a minimalist podcast.
minimalist section.
Real
for Chris.
quick, we were gonna start the podcast. We usually start with a little banter at the top.
Of course.
We're gonna start with
usually
something
pre-scripted banter.
that happened. Pre-scripted, and I was gonna hoodwink you guys. And instead talk about Andrew's cut-off corduroy pants that he's wearing right
what
now.
the heck?
I'm down with that.
But I decided we should just get into the episode.
I'd like to talk about the corduroys.
I can talk about my cut-off corduroy pants.
Did you, when you cut them off, I'm assuming you cut them off yourself.
I did.
Were they, was there any damage to the bottom already? Is that what caused it?
Yeah, so the story is this. I've had these corduroys for, I think, about 6 years.
Fans at home can't see them. They're not cut off at the knee.
They're poorly
cut off at the waist.
They're
You see his whole crotch
They're
right
not cut
now.
off at the waist. They're very poorly cut off.
He is wearing a belt, though.
I would say, yeah, it's just a belt.
All right, but the poorly cut off is fine. I think jorts that are
Yeah.
poorly cut off. That adds
well, what
character to
happened
them.
was that it ripped. I literally bent my knee like I'm doing now, and the pants were so old that it just ripped, and I had the kind of a grungy I don't
what you
know,
mean.
punk girl kind of look.
Are those
Sure.
the pants that I was with you when you bought them? Remember
No.
You know what the pants
That
are?
was those are old too, but no. And then I was invited to it was a jorts party, and if you didn't bring jorts, you had to sing karaoke.
Ooh, all right.
So I decided, well, this is a good opportunity.
That sounds like a true nightmare.
Yeah.
Either you look awful or you look awful on stage.
My roommate, totally insane. Don't know what he was thinking. He has 2 pairs of jeans. Just cut one of them off.
Really?
Literally just didn't
even go
care.
and buy a cheap pair?
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, just buy a cheap pair.
Or
Also,
just buy jorts.
Or, hey, cut off your corduroys, brother.
didn't even think twice. I got a favorite pair of jeans,
Yeah.
Literally just said, oh, either one, whichever one he happened to walk in, you're the unlucky one who's
Wow.
getting cut off.
I'm
yeah.
shocked.
But anyway.
Is this man a minimalist?
I know,
Yeah,
maybe.
seriously.
So I decided to do this, and when I got to the party, they said, good try, but it's a fair attempt, so they gave me the option, you have to do a duet, because
that's
I
fair.
thought it was a fair thing. I didn't bring cut off jorts, but I did cut off some pants.
Nice.
Some cords.
So I sang Malibu by Miley Cyrus.
Oh, that's a good song.
It
I like
was.
that song.
Which one's
It
that?
should have been. Do you not know it? Because
I-
no one there knew it.
Do you
Came
mind
out
if
fairly
Andrew and I do a
recently.
duet real
No.
quick? Let me throw on my jorts and we could.
It was not a crowd favorite. I was bummed.
Malibu, something like that.
Everyone was doing the classics, Semi-Charmed Life, Boulevard of Broken Dreams.
Those are good
I was
songs.
like, all right, let's get some new. Like, that's a great song, I think,
Yeah,
and it's a
I
good
really
karaoke song too.
Nice.
all
But,
right, enough George
And you
talk.
did both parts of the duet yourself.
No, I wasn't able to do a duet with my roommate. He caved, even though he brought jorts, which was exciting.
Oh,
Nice.
wow.
Yeah, but I was the one with the mic. So
Hmm.
Oh, God,
who's
this
the
sounds
who's the
awful.
real loser here?
That's your
Yeah.
roommate.
All
Right?
right,
It
all
was
right.
pretty brutal.
This,
Your roommate,
podcast
Mike.
This podcast is getting sad. No more Jort talk, please.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna do
Thanks for hoodwinking us. You know,
Gotcha.
if only we had scripted it, it would have made more sense.
We're doing the classic lineup in our usual our researchy episodes.
I would
we
say
do
coined by I Need a Hobby, but that sounds kind of not humble.
Wait,
but I think it's true.
our classic lineup of
I
Chris,
thought you
Andrew,
meant I thought you
Yeah.
meant I thought you meant our classic like style of episode that
yeah, this is
is untapped
Yeah.
by
So we're
other
doing all right,
podcasts.
fine. We're doing a more researchy episode. Alex,
Mhm.
yeah, you're right. I should explain to the folks at home, first time listeners.
Mhm.
These episodes, we each research something. This week it's a documentary,
Mhm.
and we're going to tell the other two about it. And we're using our classic lineup, hasn't failed us in the past,
Sure. Yep.
except for our last documentaries episode, of Chris first, Andrew second, and me batting cleanup.
Yeah.
Because that's what
Sports, baby.
No,
I think
that's not
cleanup's
that's
fourth,
not
yeah.
cleanup. Yeah.
But fourth is, right?
Cleanup is
Yeah.
Todd.
So he
Last,
As in,
I meant
first of all,
last. I meant
he-
the
last.
fourth person, and then as well cleans up all of our
course, yeah.
mess.
Packs away the
Chris's
wires.
Diet Cokes that
the
he
Diet
leaves every day.
Cokes.
All right. So
Yeah, you
Chris,
start strong. That's how they usually say, you know. Huh?
Wait, what?
You want to keep the listener listening, so that's why I start.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, nice. Good.
Okay.
All right.
Should I get right into it?
Chris, lay it on
Hurry,
us.
they're about to turn it off. Go quick.
Oh god, it's me. It's Chris. So this movie I chose, Minimalism, a documentary about the important things. So the reason I watched this movie was
When did it come out?
2016, I believe, pretty
Okay.
recently.
Okay.
I heard about this movie from a friend, and I had a good conversation with a few people one time about like this whole kind of movement. Like I
Yeah.
feel like the minimalism,
That's a
Movement
good,
is like-
good word to define it. Movement.
it's in the zeitgeist. It's
Mhm.
something people are talking about having
Yep.
less, you know. And throughout the movie, you kind of saw there was like 10, like kind of like talking heads, like people who would have little sections where they'd say like, you don't really need that much, and like go into it.
Sure.
Yeah.
They said more than that, and each of them had like written their own book about it. So it's like a trendy topic. Like
Definitely.
there's plenty of people. There's plenty of
I would
content
argue
about
we
it.
could do an episode on it.
I think so
right?
too. Yeah. So that's what I thought was interesting. So it kind of started. The movie started off with kind of like a description of how we got to this point where we are now,
Sure.
of just stuff. I guess.
What do you mean,
Yeah,
like
hor-
material possessions?
Yeah, like kind of the material thing.
Mhm.
Sure.
It started off by kind of getting scientific, and I don't know, like it seemed like it was a little overdone there. Like humans, since the birth of man, have like needed to gain things to survive. You
Sure.
know, like so, which true. But then they kind of said like as we go
you got
through,
a point there. You talking head.
because kind of like when we were first like cavemen, if you saw like something you would eat,
If
kind of
you-
like
if
past
you-
like you don't know when you'd find your next meal, so you'd always
Sure.
you'd always eat.
But
they're
that's,
saying
that to me, all right, I guess I was going to say that to me feels like the opposite of hoarding, but I guess it's the same concept. Like
yeah, kind of like
You're taking
get
it all
stuff
in.
now so that you can get it while you can, while
Right.
you have money. Just kind of like that basic premise. The two main guys in the movie, both started off, they were like corporate people, working their way up the ladder, making a lot of money,
Nice.
and both kind of had their own moments where they realized like,
They sound nice.
what did I do it for? And that seemed to kind of be a trend with these people, is like they all had a reason that sparked this. Like one guy said like, it was like his mother died and he got divorced and he had this whole like life
Sure.
event.
It's like a midlife crisis. thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Instead of getting a Mercedes,
Mhm.
he
got rid of everything.
Got rid of his only method of transportation.
This
mhm.
seems like something you would do like after a really big breakup.
yeah, that's true.
right?
Just like go off and live in the woods or something.
I'll show you.
You'll never see
I'm
me again.
sad now.
Yeah. So they both talked about how they had like a bunch of junk and they didn't need it, and they sort of wanted to like have a lot less. They then went into like talking about how we started like buying all this junk, where it came from. So like back in the 1990s is when the biggest like spark of buying stuff happened. Like
yeah.
they showed like this graph of the average amount people spend on certain things.
Right.
Like the biggest thing they talked about were clothes. And around the 1990s, there was a big uptick,
Nice.
partially because there was so much cheaper stuff coming from China.
I'm trying
Like,
to think of what even was like the fashion in clothes in the 90s.
yeah,
Like, I was going to say bell-bottom jeans, but I know that's the wrong answer. What were people wearing?
boots
you
with
know?
fur. Yeah, I don't know.
I have
'Cause,
no
like-
idea. That's apple bottom jeans, dude.
Damn it.
Those
Close.
bell-bottom jeans.
Yeah.
That song came out in the 90s, right?
No.
But I thought that was interesting. So like,
Because I think of the 90s as like not a very minimalistic time.
No.
And I've made clearly that's why.
So I think it's like that's when the change happened.
Yeah.
And they kind of talked about. I thought it was interesting. Like back in the day, people's clothes were way more expensive, and like you wore them for a lot longer.
Mhm.
You know, like nowadays you can buy a T-shirt for like $2.
Right.
Those days that wasn't an option. So it was kind of like you'd wear the same like wool jacket for your whole life. You know. And they talked about this interesting thing about how like the used clothing market is almost like extinct these days. I mean, I guess there are like thrift shops and stuff, but
Right.
like people aren't really.
Just ask Macklemore, am I right?
Yeah. His granddad's coat or something. Yeah, I guess he's trying to undo the
So
whole.
yeah, I was gonna say I almost feel like the idea of thrift shopping is a more of a minimalist idea.
I guess
maybe
you're
it's
not spending money on it.
Yeah, I don't know if it is.
Well, I guess
necessarily.
It's
They
just I feel like it's like adjacent. Like minimalists are not gonna want to like spend money. It's like a money saving thing. So it's
No,
thrift
but
shopping.
minimalism isn't about saving money. It's about.
I know. I
like,
feel like it goes hand in hand. Though,
yeah.
doesn't
Okay.
it?
Fair.
And I'd say also like
Yeah, that's
one
true.
big topic with minimalist people that they talk about is like you only have so many things, so it's all like good quality. So I would
Yeah,
think like
that
most of
makes
these people
sense.
might not want to go thrift shopping because instead they want like the best jacket, but just that one.
Right.
jacket.
Right. That makes sense.
Which is interesting. And then like when they were showing their apartments, they were like everything here has a purpose, like
Mhm.
yada yada. Which got me like looking around my apartment and seeing like all the random junk I have.
Were their apartments nice?
S-
Aesthetically pleasing?
Some of them were. So there were some that were more like the tiny houses that.
Ooh, don't
Yeah.
talk
Don't
about that.
please.
But then there were some.
People are gonna shut up our podcast, dude.
Which I mean, they were pretty cool. Like they make them interesting. But then there were some that were like apartments that were like 500 square feet, like basically like studio apartments that had like beds that folded out,
Yeah.
and like they had it set up so that
Murphy
there was
beds, I
like
believe those are called.
Mhm. Yeah, and they had those, and they had like dining room tables that then like you could collapse into
Yeah,
the
yeah.
side.
Murphy tables, I believe
tables.
those are called.
And there was a Murphy TV, Murphy butcher.
Wow.
Wow.
So I thought that was interesting.
You know what was on that TV? Probably people watching Murphy Brown.
Who's
You know?
that?
I have no idea.
I think it's a character from like a detective show, maybe.
All right.
It's definitely a
You're thinking of Encyclopedia Brown?
No. Murphy Brown is a real person. He slept in a Murphy Brown.
Don't think so. Okay,
Look it
let's
up.
Go ahead, Chris.
Doubtful,
podcast.
doubtful. So that
Oh
was
no,
cool.
Murphy Brown's gonna be the next tiny house.
But then another reason they said like people are buying all this stuff is like
Mhm.
just the way kind of like houses are these days. People have a lot more space. Like the average
Yeah.
person this day has like more space for themselves in
Is
their
all
house.
that is that true though?
Yeah,
like,
they were
were they
showing
backing
you
this
know
up?
they were showing some sort of numbers, some
Okay.
statistics. But one thing that was crazy. Well, so they say like you have more space, you need stuff to fill it with, which I think makes sense.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
if you have a room,
If you have the money, you have the space.
yeah.
Might as well fill it up.
Because even if you have the space, then it's like what you got to put something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I don't have any rooms in my apartment now that are like empty.
Like
Not
if
that I have a
would
giant
buy
apartment, but
I would buy a pool table if I had a room that could fit a pool table.
exactly.
But it's not like I'm a pool shark.
Well,
No.
yeah, like I think it's weird if
I would
well,
just do
it's,
that because
it's
it's the
not
thing to
weird,
do.
but it like if you go into a room and you just have no decorations, it's not weird, but it something's off.
It
you
seems
know?
off.
It seems like you're kind of a psycho, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like how we talked about in online dating. We like a group picture because
Mhm.
it shows that
Right.
you're a real person.
Yeah.
If you
But if you
walk
have
into a
just
room
you-
with like a pair of an outfit and like your bed.
Yeah,
It's
if I
a little
open
weird.
if I open someone's closet, we don't need the backstory of why I'm opening their closet. But let's say I open
We
their
tend to do
closet and it's just one nice jacket, one nice shirt,
Yeah.
and one nice pair of pants. I turn around and they're standing way too close to me. Don't worry, they're high quality. I'm so creeped out.
It's
Yeah.
so funny.
I'm minimalist, Alex.
So it was kind of like going back and forth between like, okay, like you to be minimalist.
They don't have to be creepy.
No,
What I
They
was saying
could just be
is-
like a
in this situation
like-
that added to the creepiness.
yeah,
value.
most of these
Yeah.
people are big creeps, I'd say.
Okay.
But they talked about how like, so more space, you need more stuff. So then it's like you should have a smaller place, and because it doesn't, they're not saying that you should live in an empty house. Like
You're just saying
fill your
they're
house.
just saying that like you naturally you're going to fill the space you have. So
Exactly.
if you have less space,
Mhm.
then you'll save money.
because
I think.
one interesting study that they did was they took an average house, like people who lived in it, and like tracked where they were in the house during the day.
Mhm.
That's
So like
interesting.
kind of like a heat map of like the most common places
Sure.
they go, and they were finding people only spend time in 40% of the house,
Wow.
which is crazy. So
That
it's
is
like
interesting.
they were like, oh,
Oh,
no one
yeah.
ate in the dining room. Like people spend not that much time in the living room. Like there was a porch that no one ever.
My
went
my
on.
mom's boyfriend the other day just said you spend 90% of your time in 10% of the rooms. Does seem a little crazy because there's only like 10% of the rooms. That's like one room or like half
Yeah.
a room.
Yeah,
but
That's
and
like what you
honestly,
said.
but it's like the idea is the same.
It's like when you said everything has its everything in their houses has its purpose. Like that's good. If like something's purpose was only used 10% of the time, that's not. It has almost no purpose.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Like a dining room.
Mm-hmm. And then they kind of talked about how there's such a big, so even like people are buying stuff to fill these rooms, but then it's like they keep buying stuff. You get into kind of like the rhythm of it. Like there's so much like marketing. That was a big focus of the thing, is like how marketing is like playing a role in our lives and how people are buying things that they don't need to be. And they talked about how big the storage industry is. So there's like 2.2 billion square feet of storage space. That,
like
people
storage units?
Yeah, storage units that people are literally just like keeping extra stuff in,
Wow.
which is crazy.
Yeah,
That is
that is pretty crazy.
Because it's like, it makes sense. Like, you're like, oh, yeah, I need somewhere to put all my junk. But it's like, do you need the junk?
Yeah, right.
Junk.
Right? I don't know. I don't think so. Very interesting.
It sounds like the first half of this documentary is just an episode of Hoarders.
Yeah, more or
Like
less.
that's basically what.
There was also,
shows.
so the kind of the way the documentary was told was like, in between these two guys were on like a tour of the country telling their story. 10 months tour. They only brought like one carry-on bag.
Definitely seems like
course.
a
That's the
Vima Verve thing. You know?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
you know, you're not living right. You're
Is
not
there-
living your life like
Is there
me.
much money in the minimalism industry, you think?
No.
Well, it was like they wrote a book and they were like pitching it kind of. But it was like
there's the money.
the guys were kind of like, I don't know. They wanted to give off the vibe like they weren't crazy. Like they were like, so yeah, I'll go somewhere and talk to people and they'll be like, I have all these books that I love reading and like I don't want to get rid of my books. He's like, I'm not telling you get rid of your books. Just find something else to
I'm
get rid
just
of.
saying, burn them all.
But then they
All
also
right, well,
library while
that
you're
is
at it.
interesting to me though. So they are saying like you can keep like collectibles, because that seems to me like it's contradictory.
Well, I
no?
think they were saying like keep the things that give you the most pleasure. So if your thing is books, then keep
I
your books.
disagree. I disagree. Like I would keep books.
Hey,
Like, what?
hey, sucker. Get a library card. It's much thinner than
I
a
agree
book.
with that.
Yeah,
Same thing.
like I get what you're saying, but it's like if you keep books that I kind of like it as like a, like I did this. I read this whole book. Like,
But who cares? I think that's what they're saying. Like, who cares? Like,
Yeah, I think
that's adding nothing to your life after
no,
you've read
but
it.
that's what I'm saying. If I was minimalist, I would think that. But Chris was just saying that they're not saying that. They're not saying who cares. They're saying keep it.
I took it more as like if you're reading these books and they have a purpose, then
yeah, I think that's
No.
kind of like
but,
But
maybe not.
you literally just said that. People said what I'm saying. I don't
think-
want to throw out my books.
I think this Vima guy was just trying to. Like Chris said, he was trying to seem.
I think
cool,
I think
so
they
it's
were
like-
just trying to seem like approachable. They weren't trying to seem like they were saying that they have the recipe that's like gonna fit.
It's like
everything's
when you.
suck
It's like
'em
when
in.
you join a cult. At first, they're like,
Yeah,
"No,
exactly.
we're not
Yeah,
a cult."
okay.
and then they burn your books.
Eventually, they're like, "Yeah, come here, we can burn all your books right now."
if you want to be a member,
Yeah.
like a
They
full
ease you
member.
into it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, there was also an interesting kind of like sub story that they were showing about how like couples or families that live minimalistic lives, like there was a couple who was very minimalist and they had 2 kids and they were like, yeah, we didn't like push our kids into this kind of feeling, but like they
you
have
did.
one son who like is into it, like doesn't have much stuff, and then they have a daughter who like has tons of toys and all this stuff.
Yeah,
And they were, I don't know, I
Weird.
thought that was
That is
interesting because
weird.
that is a weird, like imagine growing up like that.
Well, I just hate any of that stuff. I even maybe this isn't as extreme. I wouldn't say I hate this, but I don't even like raising kids as vegetarian. I feel like they deserve.
I don't even want to raise a
they
kid.
they deserve to
Let
like
my wife do that.
choose. You know.
well,
Like,
that's what I'm saying.
I
that
get
they
it.
did,
I
yeah.
get it.
but
But
they
it's
can't,
like
they can't choose. Is that what you're saying?
What do you
'Cause
mean?
They can't choose. Kids
Yeah.
can't choose that. They
no,
don't know
but
the They don't know like.
no, but
I
like
think we're
some parents
agreeing.
are vegetarians and they will just never give their kid meat and they'll never let them get meat. You know.
I know.
Which
I don't know
which
where I
is like
stand on
not
this,
the
but-
end of the world, but in my opinion, I think that's too much. And same with obviously the minimalism thing is a worse example of that. Like,
Yeah.
kids should be
Yeah.
able to just get what they want, not all the time, but you know what I mean. You can't just
Yeah.
say like
I know, it's
one
weird.
toy for Christmas. Sorry, we're minimalists. Like what? No.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they
that would get me
did
mad.
give them the option, which I thought was interesting.
That was
did.
the option
Okay.
as a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to be minimalist and you get one toy, or do you want way too many
Yeah.
toys?
I think it was kind of like
Yeah, and the one kid took one
Who's
toy.
this idiot kid they have who's choosing minimalism?
yeah, seriously. Another interesting like subsection that I never really thought about was kind of like going back. So like back when people only had like really good clothes and they were expensive.
Yeah.
They said back then there was like 2 or 4 seasons like in terms of like fashion. Like it was like cold
was
weather,
like-
warm
I thought
weather,
you meant like in
maybe
the
like
USA.
fall, spring.
Global warming hasn't done that much.
Depends where you live, to be
But
honest.
now they say there's like 52 seasons. Like there's the whole like fast fashion thing where like
Yeah,
stores sell stuff for cheap and it's like in fashion.
How does
very
this have to do
briefly.
with minimalism?
and I feel
Because nowadays
he said
people,
it's a subsection.
it's like people like that's something that is like going against it, I guess. So like
okay.
the way like
I
kind of
see.
the like retail stores are selling
Right,
things.
right.
It's like you need to buy this now, and
Yeah.
it's out of fashion in like a week.
Do you think that applies to everyone though? Like, I
don't
don't
think
find
so.
myself buying stuff.
I don't buy
often,
that.
but definitely not like, oh, I got to get my spring wardrobe out of here because it's summertime. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really think about that.
No, me either. I mean, I'm not a big like shop. Like, I don't own like a ton of
Were
clothes.
you
I
gonna
feel
say
like
shop till you drop?
I always said I'm not a
You were
big
gonna say
shopper.
shop till
Hey,
you drop.
every now and then I'll shop till I drop. But and then they talked about this woman who this whole thing kind of annoyed me. But she had this whole thing. I think I sent you guys a Snapchat about it last night preemptively. But she called it Project 33.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought it was Project 3.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, sorry,
333.
333. You're right.
Yeah.
It was. She only wore 33 pieces of clothing for
Okay.
for 3 months. So 30. Yeah. Which, when you think
That's
about
not
it, like
bad.
that's not that.
I was gonna
That's
say
not
that might
that bad.
be what I do. Actually.
I was gonna say I don't know if it includes like underwear and socks, and I don't know if a sock counts as
That's
too. But I don't know.
I mean, just not wear socks and it makes it
No, but you don't
heck of
understand.
a lot easier.
It's one pair of underwear, but it's really durable, so it doesn't matter.
It's incredibly high quality. It's for all seasons. I don't know, but like, is that hard? 33.
That's not. Yeah, that
No.
doesn't seem hard.
No, seriously.
I guess maybe the 3. Well, then in the next 3 months she has 33 other.
I think she kind of said like, once I got to 3 months, I realized I didn't even.
You know what?
need,
That
Yeah.
scales too. I was just thinking about it. Like Project 111, right? 11 for 1 month.
Mhm.
Not insane. That's 3 outfits. You could just wash them.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't even say that. Like,
Yeah.
I probably would not even make note unless I was living with the person. Like, oh, you're wearing the same 3 outfits.
Exactly.
Like, that's not difficult.
Because she
at
was
all.
saying how like she worked a lot. She had a lot of like meetings and stuff like with
Yeah.
clients, and she was like nervous about it. But like, no one's ever gonna call you out
no
for
one
that.
cares.
Yeah.
No one's gonna
Yeah.
notice.
Yeah, I wonder like I don't know. I guess I do like the people at my work. I kind of know like oh yeah, that's like he wears that shirt sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
But I would
I guess
never.
that makes sense.
Especially if it stands out. Like,
Yeah,
another thing with the minimalism thing, I feel like they don't wear stuff that like, or they don't
That's
have
yeah.
stuff that is like flashy and
well,
stands
that's
out.
the point
Mhm.
because you want it to be adaptable. I think
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess so.
you want to be like versatile. Like
just because you have so few clothes.
if you only have
Right.
33 pieces of
But
clothing,
you could have an adaptable plaid shirt,
You think plaid stands out?
kind of. More than, okay, not that plaid, but
but I'd say like you're not gonna if you have 33 pieces of clothing, you're probably not gonna have like a Hawaiian shirt in the mix.
Yeah.
exactly. That's kind
Yeah.
of what I'm.
Unless it's very
Trying to say.
important to you, which
Right.
I would probably have 4 or 5 Hawaiian shirts.
Depending on where you live, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And then so kind of like as the story went along, it like these guys were doing these like speeches, and at the beginning there was like 3 or 4 people coming out, to see it, and then they got picked
minimalism.
up by like the Today Show,
Mm-hmm.
so they got kind of viral.
Yeah.
They were doing all these big talks. It was kind of like
So sorry, is the documentary their documentary or is it someone like?
yeah, it's their
Doing it on
documentary.
them.
I think like
Okay.
based on their book. I don't know if like
So they
They shot
produced
it.
it themselves.
I don't really know, but it's like centered around them.
Well, no, but like like are they?
He doesn't really know.
Is it first
dude.
person or no? Like, are they saying like there's no narration at all?
There's no narration.
Okay,
It's
okay.
Yeah.
right.
I don't know if they're setting up the camera, if
Yeah,
they're
which
editing.
company produced
I gotcha.
it? Yeah. So it got more and more popular. I don't know. I would say that as a like as like a learning experience, it was
Mhm.
good. But as
Yeah.
like a story for their perspective, it wasn't. It was just like I don't know, kind of weird
It was lame.
the way they set it up. I would have liked.
Yeah, what was the objective to the documentary? Did they want you to like buy into the minimalism, or did they want you to be like interested in this journey that these two guys were going on?
I think it was like too much on the line. Like I
Yeah.
think they should have picked one, and I think that's why I think I
Yeah.
learned a lot. I thought it was cool. There are probably things from it I'll like take in my life, but I don't like the. I don't know. I wasn't very into their story, honestly.
Yeah.
Like they weren't very like compelling characters.
I'm looking at it now. It looks like that the director was just some other guy.
Yeah, okay.
So good for them. They got
Yeah.
picked up by
Yeah.
someone.
Nice. So yeah, decent movie. That's pretty much it. Basically ended with like them saying like they had this big Jim Carrey quote. Where have you heard this before? Where he was like Jim Carrey said,
Is it the one in his like famous rant or like recently famous rant about like God and stuff?
No,
don't
Like
know.
probably.
nihilism, that I haven't seen it, but it was like such a big deal like a year ago or something. Like, oh, Jim Carrey really gets it. Like,
Oh, really?
but yeah, you didn't hear about
I
this? It
didn't
was
hear
like
about
maybe I
that.
did. but-
Jim Carrey, like nihilistic rant. Wow, he really gets it. But I never saw it, so I can't.
Well, I want to hear his minimalistic rant.
There we go.
But I think what he said was, he said, I wish everyone in the world could be rich so that they could realize that that's not what it's all about.
Come on. Jim.
That's literally, and then the guy in the
Coming
movie was
from a
like,
rich
when
guy.
I heard that, I said, come on, like like you could say that from your
Come
seat.
on, you were the mask. How could
Yeah,
you say
come
something
on,
like
Ace
that?
Ventura. I don't know. That also kind of vibes me like, I don't know. Like he's living this like, if you have a lot of money, I don't think you get that.
I know.
you know?
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing I took away from this movie is like, you don't need all the stuff. Another interesting guy they showed said he like travels the world with 50 things. And he knows all like of his things he has. You never really think about how many.
If you're traveling, I feel like it's
I'm
very
gonna
practical.
be honest. That is not interesting to me at all. I could care less.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, I think that there's like different like ways of, I don't know.
Like if I was going to say I'm going to spend the year
I couldn't care
traveling-
less. I couldn't care less.
You did not.
If I was
care
going to
less.
spend a year traveling across the world or even country, heck, even town, I don't care. I would. It's just more practical to be minimalistic.
Yeah, which is why I think
Yeah.
But
from
if
his
you're in one
perspective,
spot,
it made sense.
it's I don't know. Doesn't feel as practical.
Yeah,
Not that it's bad, but
This whole thing kind of
I
made me
agree.
think of. I just spent the weekend with a friend who's really into hiking, and he did like a month-long trip. It's like 500-mile hike or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he said like it's so important like how much you have in your backpack.
Because
Right.
it's heavy, right?
Yeah, and like he said that people on the trip would like they'd have maps and they'd like tear out pieces of it as they got along it. Like they were so
Oh,
and
come on.
and he
that's
told
too
me
much.
That's insane.
he was like
that's just proving a point.
he told me like he gets it to a point, but then he was like, yeah, at points in the trail, like I'd have like a bottle of wine with me, like I don't care. You
Yeah,
know, like-
see, I agree with that guy. I feel like I
Exactly.
somewhat live my life like that.
yeah,
Like if I don't know, do what's practical, but
Mhm.
like
that's
don't,
what. Yeah,
don't do it when it's not practical just to show how practical. I don't know how to
Exactly.
explain
Yeah.
it. But like
the map
like the
example
map
is
is
exactly
perfect.
it, what
Yeah.
you're saying.
that's like
Yeah.
it's like I gotta spit every 5 yards so I have less liquid in my body. It's too heavy. Like what? Are you
Or he said
doing?
like a lot of people would just bring half a toothbrush because you really just need the brush. It's like come on,
That's so dumb.
that's
Oh
too
my
much.
god.
Seriously.
Yeah, like that doesn't even add up.
See, I would like a documentary or a mockumentary where it's like a
On
fake
maximalist.
documentary about minimalists and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Where it's like, yeah,
That'd be so
really,
fun.
you only need one ply. It's like, what?
All right, is that all you
That's
have to
pretty
say
much
on
it.
minimalism,
Solid
Chris?
story.
Would you
but
recommend it?
I think it's worth a watch. I don't think that
Can you find it on?
it's on Netflix. That's how I saw it. Like, and I think
What's the title again, just in case?
Minimalism.
Oh, if it has a subtitle,
it
that's
does.
not
Trust me, it
minimalist.
does. Yeah,
I would call it M. Period.
just
Probably taken.
a documentary about the important things.
Okay.
Nice.
And then they ended with this whole other thing I didn't like, where they were like, the Earth is like has this many parts carbon dioxide
They
per
were-
wlike we're going downhill if we don't like. I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
I thought you were
don't-
going to say like they ended this thing where they're like, the Earth is actually flat. You don't understand? It's like whoa. I think we're veering off course here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the key to minimalism, and also like going back to your movie you saw about the tiny house, is like, you do you, you know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't
definitely.
know.
Yeah. All right. I had like a quick rebuttal about the tiny houses, but I don't even want to
I
get
know.
into it right now.
Yeah. Let's get going.
All right. Am I up?
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Oh, yeah, let's say, would you watch this documentary?
Nay.
I'm gonna give it a nay.
Super
as well.
not interested in minimalism. All right. And to be honest, it's not just your thing; it's the tiny houses too. It just turned me off. It was too much. All right. Mine is on this movie that I watched called Grizzly Man, which is very interesting to me personally. I didn't really know what it was about before, but for the listeners at home and you guys, first I'll prep that I showed these guys a couple clips from the movie because it would not do justice to how weird the protagonist is.
Right.
So I just showed them so that they would have a better idea, at least to discuss it. But
But
if
we don't
you're
care
at home
about
and
our listeners.
you haven't seen it, it's not it's not the end of the world.
Just look it up. You go on YouTube.
You could look up
Man.
Grizzly Man intro. Literally look up Grizzly Man intro scene, and that's enough. That's enough of like exposure to this character. But basically, it's about this guy, and it's a documentary about this guy who his name's Timothy Treadwell. Basically,
Is that did he adapt that name?
his name was Timothy something, and he
Okay.
changed to
Because
Timothy
Treadwell sounds-
Treadwell
It sounds like a
at a certain
tribal
point.
name or
Sounds
something.
Yeah.
like an outdoorsman trying to adopt.
Yeah,
a name.
I don't know. But anyway, so he basically like lived amongst grizzly bears in Alaska every summer for 13 years. And in his last 5 years, he brought along a camera and he got 100 hours worth of footage of him like among these grizzly bears, like very close, like very frequently, like
Right.
a foot
Dangerously
away.
close.
Dangerously, like incredible. I mean, any distance is very close, you know?
Yeah.
Right? Because
But, like,
bears,
living among
bears
them,
can
yeah.
outrun you. Yeah, like living among them. Like not like,
Sound like
not
Dwight-
like kumbaya and stuff.
Sound like Dwight Schrute. Hey, bears can outrun you. Don't you understand?
Like not like Jungle Book style. He had a tent by himself, but he was there.
I was gonna ask.
I was imagining him like
tent?
eating grass.
No, he had his own supplies and
Didn't
stuff.
you
He was
say
in a
earlier
tent.
that he cuddles with them?
No, I didn't say that.
No, like he lets the babies in the tent and he cuddles with
I
them.
did not say that.
a little spoon action.
Crazy.
Was it that you said you do that?
No,
or was it just a
I was talking about a stuffed bear.
It was that
obviously.
Andrew cuddles with Timothy Treadwell
Okay.
on their summers in Alaska.
Bad joke, Chris, because he was killed by bears. That's
Was
the
he?
truth. He was killed by bears. He was killed by
Spoiler
bears.
alert.
No, not spoiler. That's like
I'm just
it was one of the
kidding.
first things you find out.
Okay,
But
I was gonna.
It was
ask
the
about
final
that.
scene.
But
Was
I
he-
won't get into his death too much. But basically, he was killed.
Killed by bears.
He was killed by bears.
Oh, this is breaking my
It's
heart.
sad. It's really sad. But
Did he know?
it's kind of I'll get to the whole thing, and
They
I'll
didn't-
give my explanation for why I think he got
Did
killed
they
by the bear.
They didn't outrun him.
They
did
didn't. They outran him. They outran him. No,
Oh
I don't
my
think.
God.
I don't think so. But okay. So what happened was basically the movie starts out. It's the guy. The director's name's like Werner Herzog. I think he's pretty famous actually. But he is like basically doing a commentary of this guy Timothy Treadwell's footage from when he spent his time with the Grizzlies. So. Treadwell, he died in 2003. The documentary came out in 2005, so it's very recently after. And the biggest takeaway, I'll get to the details later, but the overall picture is that Herzog is basically seeing that this guy Treadwell is like Treadwell thinks he's like a hero for like being with the bears and he's saying protecting them from poachers and like learning their ways. And then also, which is cool, he goes and he educates children on it. Like he would be like a guest speaker at a school and he'd talk about his experiences and stuff. But like the true sad thing is that that Herzog is very, I think, really hammering over your head in the documentary is that bears are a dangerous natural animal. You do not want to mess with them at all. So it's actually wicked tragic that this guy dedicated so much of his life to being with the bears.
Right.
And it ended up killing him, to be
freaking
honest.
bad.
Dude, it was super,
Do you
it's
think
super
he was
interesting.
I don't know how to explain it, but
Yeah.
he thought he was doing this huge purposeful thing, but really he had no
Okay,
purpose.
so-
and he was just unnecessarily putting himself in
That's
harm.
why I thought it was so interesting. So the beginning of the movie, the first 30 minutes or so is footage from this guy, and he I showed you the clips. He's very, very weird. Probably has mental problems.
Speaks in his own
in his own type of
dialect almost.
accent.
Yeah.
Names all the bears. There's this one bear he called Mr. Chocolate, and he's filming with Mr. Chocolate 100 yards, less than 100 yards away from him. He goes, "There's my friend Mr. Chocolate." I don't want to imitate his accent, or whatever, but it was like that. And he goes
You can do it.
he's a great bear, and we've been friends for 10 years, and it's you haven't been, this is a bear. You know what I
I'd
mean?
also say the thing is maybe he could get close with some bears,
Right,
you know what I
right.
mean? But he's in Alaska, he's gonna find a new bear that's gonna
Exactly.
This isn't.
But
a
it
bear.
was super interesting.
Yeah.
He named all these bears. He lived amongst
I honestly
them.
don't think the naming part is that weird. I think a lot of
once you're in it.
How would you even know? I guess though, but he knew.
I don't know enough about
all
bears,
the bears, but
yeah, I
whatever.
guess if there are a lot, it's
I
weird.
think that's pretty impressive. Kind of a tangent, but I recently went to the zoo and someone
a little more tame, but okay.
there was maybe 8 gorillas.
And I challenged a bear to a foot race. And believe it or not, it was close.
And this woman there knew the names of all the gorillas.
That's what I mean.
And was
I think a lot
how
of
do you even distinguish them? I
Yeah.
get some of them are smaller, but
yeah,
I think
no,
if
that's
you're
cool.
with animals all the
You
time,
would get it.
that's a thing. I've seen
Yeah.
that.
That's
I'm
true.
sure Steve Irwin was into that. RIP.
So, basically, yeah, this is actually kind of analogous to Steve Irwin.
I was gonna say this guy kind of looked like
he's
he
less
was, Steve Irwin.
or Steve
wannabe.
Irwin was less crazy than him.
Yeah.
Steve Irwin was with it. He he had an
Yeah.
unfortunate accident. But anyway, with Treadwell, what was super interesting is they show him with the bears, and he's not even bonding with the bears. He's trying because the bears are dangerous, so he has to keep his distance. I showed you guys a clip that was super interesting of a bear eating a salmon, and also obviously he doesn't have a camera crew. It's just him because no one's that stupid to go out with the bears.
Right.
So he has the camera set up on a tripod, and he's talking, and in the background you see this bear walking
up
up,
on him.
creeping up behind him. And he calls this one the Grinch because it was so mean or whatever.
he hates
very
Christmas.
ridiculous, And and because it hates Christmas, obviously. But he
All right.
he shows how to defend against the bear. The bear basically comes up to him and he quickly snaps
Yeah,
and
he was-
shows that he's bigger than the bear, and then he
You
starts
gotta learn
feeling
that stuff
bad.
quick
And
if you're gonna do that.
But then
Yeah.
he started flirting with it. afterwards.
No.
He did. He was like, "I love you. Don't worry."
Yeah, it's true.
Or maybe it's not flirting.
He's
But
like,
he
"I'm a
was
bear
like,
too."
He felt bad, but
Ooh, I could be a bear.
basically what I'm getting at with this is that he
Mr.
never
Chocolate.
really like had a relationship with the bears like he thought he did. However, there's a really interesting part where he has these relationships with these foxes that end up like staying in his tent with, or not in his tent, but like above his tent. And like there's like a
that's
really
who he was cuddling with.
yeah, there's a really cute scene where like the fox is like on his tent and it's like hitting his paw like from the outside of his tent on top, and he like hits his paw, like he's like high-fiving the fox with like the tent in between.
I like how he said his paw, like old treadmill had a paw. It's a hand. dude.
Whatever. And
that's cute.
Like
That's
yeah,
nice.
he's like walking around with the foxes, and it's like really really nice. But then like it gets to this point where like and Herzog does a really good job of like showing this like deeply troubled guy like living with the bears. At one point, the fox like takes one of his hats and brings it into his den, and he's like losing his mind. Like he's like freaking out. He starts like he starts swearing, and he starts saying like he had a name for the fox, might have been like Spirit or something, and he's like, "Spirit, if you don't bring that back, I'm gonna effing explode." Like he's like talking to the fox, and it's like
so weird.
whoa, like it gets from a point where it's like, oh, this guy's like a little like out of it, to like, oh, this guy is like has a real problem. Like he can't like differentiate. So anyway,
scary.
yeah, it's really really interesting.
It would have been kind of funny if he like pivoted to like, oh, like foxes like me a little bit better.
Yeah,
I'm the fox man.
I'm a
the
fox
fox
man now.
But yeah, instead he's the grizzly man. So basically it ends up like the part that I wanted to get into really is, you know, it's sad. He lives with the bears. He ends up dying. The way he dies is he basically stays like too long, more or less on purpose, like because the closer you get to winter, the bears have to hibernate, and the fish go away, and they start to get hungry.
Yeah.
So like he would basically have like a set time where he knew that if I stayed too much longer, it would get more and more dangerous. And he stayed past it for whatever reason. They basically didn't explain. They said that like he tried to go home, and there was like a dispute with his airline ticket, and instead of buying another one, he just went back, which was like not advised at all.
That's crazy.
But anyway, so there was one point which is like super interesting where he starts being like really introspective, and it's like really sad. Like they interview his parents, and they say like that he actually apparently was like the second in line to get the role of the bartender from Cheers, which apparently went to Woody Harrelson, which I didn't know.
Crazy.
Yeah, and like
Talked about Cheers last episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
yeah, so he like, and then apparently he went in like a spiral.
So he wanted to be an actor.
Yeah, and there's parts in the thing. It's so interesting, like where he's so lonely, right? Because he's alone for so long.
Right.
He's just talking to the camera, and like Herzog is saying, like he became the star of his own show, where like he had no one to talk to, so he just talked about his life and stuff, and he would say like you know, like I used to be in a dark place, like I was drinking, and I was, you know, and he said like the only way for me to get out of it was to like do this, like I found a purpose in my life, or it was crazy,
man.
and he's just talking to himself, you know, like there's no one there, and it's like really chilling because it's like raw footage, and you know how it ends up, where they end up killing him too.
Wait, so do you know that at the beginning?
At the beginning, you see it at the bottom. You see,
Wow.
you see.
That's kind of crazy.
You see like Timothy Treadwell, and then 1957, 2003, and then a little bit in, they say like exactly what happened. But yeah.
Dang. So do you think that he was trying to be like a Steve Irwin kind of guy, and like
So what I think it was
like
that
TV
like
show, and
no,
he just didn't understand.
no,
the
not at
actual
all, not at
dangers?
all. Like he when he went to schools and stuff, did it all for free. Like didn't want any money for it.
Wow.
Literally, like the sad part is that he thought he was like protecting the bears from poachers, even though like it was part of like a national park, so he wasn't doing
That's what
anything.
I mean by like that he thought he was doing much more than he
No,
actually was.
that's true, but like.
So that's
But
sad.
like you can see in the videos that like this is why it hit me so hard, is that like you can see he like is questioning himself. It's kind of like someone who maybe is like questioning their faith or their belief in God or something. Like he'll question himself and be like, is it worth, like he literally says like, I think God would think I'm a good person. Like I think that this is what I'm supposed to do.
Dang.
And he would say like, because without this I would be, you know, I would be
An alcoholic
I
or
would be an
whatever.
alcoholic. I would be doing drugs. I'd be dead
Or,
even.
like someone just, I feel like that's a thought people have in just very everyday life.
Yeah.
Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like,
Exactly.
even if it's just like your normal job, that's not hanging out with bears.
yeah. Let's see.
how
Smarter career.
how did he like get by? Like how did he like make money? or
Yeah.
like to survive?
I don't
what did
know.
he do in the?
I don't know what he did for food or
Did he
anything.
eat salmon?
But like you said, he was only there in the summers.
Yeah.
So like
What was
I
he
don't know
doing
what
the
he did
rest of the
over.
year?
Like I don't know.
just
He-
like auditioning for TV shows.
No, he
That'd
was
be funny.
done with that at that point. I think he like worked with like societies, like wildlife societies or something. Like
Yeah.
apparently, I mean, this was a while. Maybe people like if we have older listeners, they would remember him. But he said he was on the Today Show and stuff. Like he was like a what's that called? like a public figure, but like for like a living in a hut or something. You know, like a nomad-esque person.
Gotcha.
But anyway, like yeah, I don't really know. I just think what I was getting at is that to me it was super interesting seeing this guy go from like the documentary going from like this guy just living with the bears and he's weird to like this is like an incredibly troubled man who like did
Right.
this for himself. And then he said so many times like not in the clips I showed you, but he said so many times like this is so dangerous and I could die from this, but like that's okay because this is what I want to do.
Do you think he just knew he was gonna die from that?
That's like what I think at the end where he went back. I think like I don't know, like he's really troubled.
He was filming it. Maybe
he's really troubled.
Maybe this is one of these like I don't want to say like attention grabber because I don't mean to put him like he's being like a spoiled jerk or whatever.
Yeah.
But maybe he's like I don't know. He's clearly troubled. Maybe like he was filming it for a reason. So maybe he was like this is going to be my purpose.
One thing that
when I die from this, it'll show people.
Maybe one thing that I thought was that like that he like I just lost my train of thought. Dang it. I have no idea what I was going to say.
Well,
let's move on to Alex.
I'll give it a yes.
No, I can't remember. But basically, just it was at the very end. Yeah, like basically that he just kept saying like they show like really like creepy footage from like hours before he died, and he said like I will die for them. It was like stuff where it was like he knew what he was getting into at the end, and he died from the bears. And it's like,
did they ever show a moment where it looked like the bears were like showing affection to him? Or like,
no, that's the last thing I wanted to get to. I was just going to check my notes if there's anything else, but the last thing I wanted to get to was the director Herzog had a really good line I thought at the end where he's like, Treadwell, like he said, like this is where I disagree with Treadwell. Like Treadwell thought that he could have a relationship with these bears, but like the only like the in the entire movie, this is
like
the
this
truth.
guy. Imagine this Herzog guy watching like hundreds of hours of footage. You know? That's amazing.
With the foxes, you could see them act like dogs or cats a little bit. Like he would pet them and they were affectionate to him. With the bears, he said like I don't remember the exact quote, but he basically said that it was like a boring look of like indifference or like slightly hungry. You know, like they never looked like this is our friend. You know, even though he would come at 13 years like, hi Mr. Chocolate, you know, the same thing.
Timothy, how the heck are you?
It's an interesting because it's like I feel like
I remembered what I was gonna say, but go
you
ahead.
often will hear like people with like autism or somewhere on the spectrum will get like have something that they're very into, like super focused in.
Yeah.
It's crazy that his thing was bears. Because it's like
dangerous,
very dangerous.
And like there's one theory that he's like a closeted like gay person and that he just like was hiding from it, but I don't think that's true because there was one line which is really weird where he like mentioned like it's kind of like sad again, but he talks about that he like hasn't had luck with women or whatever, and he's like, if I was gay it'd be so much easier, you know, like I wish I was gay, but I'm not. Like
and
it's
just feed into the theory.
Another
camera,
maybe
you know?
It's another example of like how, and this is true for anyone, but when you're alone for that long, I mean voluntarily, it's like
he's looking for any
he's looking for any something, but he. Like they only got into it a bit, but he mentioned it with like the drinking and drugs. But like he felt like, and this is my ending take. Still to this day, people like on all the like comments that I saw, like all making fun of him. Oh, what an idiot! Like, oh, can't believe he did this. Yeah. And it's like true, but it's like you have to like understand this guy was like felt cast out from troubled from human society and like tried to find something with the bears, and in his eyes, he did like. He, you know, and it killed him, but that's what he wanted, which is as weird as that is. It's super interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting.
Kind of a sad turn, but yeah, I don't know. Then any thoughts on it? I would
sounds sad.
Absolutely recommend it. It was very, very good.
Definitely made a bad decision because he killed him. But you're right.
Oh,
you can't say like he's an idiot because like clearly wasn't in his right mind doing
Definitely
this.
not.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I'd watch it though. I'll give it a yay.
Yeah, you guys should watch this.
Yeah, no,
It
I'm
is
interested.
really like, because there's so many parts that I left out of like, because there are like really nice moments too. Like there's like beautiful moments like of nature, of him in the nature.
Yeah.
But like at the heart of it is like this, and this
I
troubled
feel
man.
like listeners at home should watch these clips too, because like you don't really understand how weird this dude is.
Yeah,
until
that's
you
what I
watch
said.
it.
I would just if you're not gonna watch the whole movie, there's a movie clip. There's like movie clips on YouTube, but you could easily watch like movie clip intro and you'd know right away. In
Yeah.
fact, the movie clips did have like I actually looked at them. They had some pretty like you would totally miss the point of the whole documentary, but you would be able to see exactly how weird this guy was just by
Yeah.
looking at the clips. So, all right, that's it. I loved it.
All right, I'll get into mine.
Let's go for it.
I watched the documentary called The Imposter.
Okay, is this heavy as well? Or
Pretty
no?
popular. It's heavy, but it's more interesting than like heavy. It's not
Okay.
as like depressing.
Yeah.
Not as heavy as only having like 4 shirts.
Yeah. Oh man. Rough
That's real
life.
deep.
That actually, Timothy Treadwell is probably a minimalist.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Must
Yeah.
be.
He had 2 bandanas. Talked about him a lot.
Oh. All right. The Imposter. It's
The minimalist would only have one.
I think it's from 2012, but I could be wrong. It's around then.
I'm looking it up.
It's pretty popular. I remember when it came out on Netflix, or when like I watched it first on Netflix.
Is it a Netflix original? No, probably
no,
not.
no.
right?
This was like back in the early days of Netflix
Yeah.
streaming.
Mhm.
It was very like recommended.
Yeah, 2012.
Now I couldn't even find it anywhere except for YouTube, but it's very good. It's about this kid, Nicholas Barclay. Early 90s.
Mhm.
All right, hold on. Let me start over.
I already
I'm
remember
gonna-
that there's a kid named
I'm
Nicholas
gonna-
Barclay.
I'm gonna-
so.
I'm gonna-
You already
Tell
spoiled
you
it.
this like Quentin Tarantino would. Timelines are going to be bouncing everywhere.
Ooh.
So it's a rainy night in France. The FBI gets, or someone in America gets a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Who's on the other end? It's a couple saying, "Hey, we just found this kid. He's missing, and he says he's American. He's definitely American. We have to find out who he is."
Mhm.
That's the intro.
Mhm.
Now back. There's this child living in Texas.
Wait,
In-
sorry. How long?
That was in
Yeah.
maybe 1996 or so.
Okay, so like years
Okay.
later.
So 3 years earlier,
Okay.
we'll say, because
okay.
I think that
Jeez.
was the timeline.
Okay.
Mm.
This 13-year-old kid named Nicholas
I feel like I
Barclay
have heard about this.
goes missing in Texas. They don't know where he is. His family searches everywhere, high and low. Can't find him. They never like pronounced him dead or anything, but they just never found him. He's always been a missing kid. This phone call comes from France,
Mhm.
and they say it's Nicholas Barclay. They
I
found
don't
him.
like. I don't like where this is going based on the title of the movie.
And the guy who's the missing child says, "That's me. I'm Nicholas Barclay." And then the family brings him in with open arms. Nicholas, old Nicky boy, you're home.
And
Let's rejoice.
They see him. They think it's him.
And they say the sister picks him up in France. Maybe it was Spain. Either way, in Europe, and says, "This is Nicholas." That he passes like the easy tests to say that he was Nicholas, and they
What
invite
tests,
him
like-
into his home. In
It's
the
like,
movie,
what's
they
your name?
in the
Nicholas,
movie,
alright.
they said it was they showed him these family pictures,
Oh my
and
god.
they had to point out which ones were his family.
Mm.
Oh my god.
Where did they find
Why
him?
not just
Just-
ask about a memory? Like,
All right, so that's what
Uh,
happened. That's what
Okay.
happened.
Wait, did they find him like just out in the?
yeah.
Just
Where did the family
wandering?
find
Well, hey,
Okay.
listen.
All right. Yeah, this is the Tarantino
So then
description.
he's home, and they have to bring child services in or someone, I don't know, the company or whatever, that comes in and like interviews him and make sure he's with his family and adjusting right. And the woman who's doing the interview says, "This is not a 16-year-old boy. He's got a dark beard." The way she said it was, he's got a dark beard.
He's
And
graying.
so she has this theory that this is not Nicholas. But if it's not Nicholas, why is the family going along with it?
Mhm.
So then what happened was this guy, Frederick Bourdin or something, was 23, and he was just this like, not, maybe he wasn't homeless, but he was like a bum. And he decided like, I'm going to get into a child shelter. So he makes this phone call
Whoa.
Wow.
saying, "Hey, we just found this kid. He says he's American." It was him on the phone. So he goes into the homeless.
I thought it was a couple.
he said we found him. It was just him.
An amazing impressionist. He did both voices.
He had a French accent, and somehow he convinced the family that he was American.
Wow.
His own family, supposedly. So he goes into this child protective services shelter in Europe somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he's there, he makes a call and says, hey, we think we found this blonde kid. Who do you think it is? And they fax a picture of Nicholas Barclay and said, is it him? And he goes, yep, that's him. Pretending to be a employee at this place. Then he convinces his sister, quote unquote, that it's him. And he flies to America.
Wow.
Then as the real child protective services are getting onto him, he comes out and says, hey, listen, you're right. I confess. I'm not him. But listen up here. They said they killed him. So the theory is that the family killed Nicholas Barclay and said he was, registered him as a missing kid because they buried his body somewhere.
They couldn't fake it.
And then when he came and said, oh, I'm Nicholas Barclay, what are they going to say?
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
So the family sees him and they're like, okay, like
they say,
we know you're not
okay.
him because we did murder him.
Yeah, so they invite this kid and pretend it's Nicholas.
Wow, because they probably think it's
both
now
knowing
the imposter needs to get out of there.
Both knowing farewell that we both know we're not supposed to be here. I'm not Nicholas and you know I'm not Nicholas.
Jeez.
But this whole thing had interviews with the family. They denied it. But if you think I know you guys pretty well. Let's say 3 years from now, someone else comes back and says, oh, bonjour, hello, it's me, Andrew, this podcast.
Yeah.
I would know in a split second, oh, this isn't my co-host.
Yeah.
And that's a co-host relationship. This is not a mother-son relationship.
Exactly.
So I think they never.
Well, so there's no.
sure.
Yeah, I agree. You cannot.
They never found a body.
You cannot convince me that the family actually thought that was their son.
There's no way. He did not
chance.
look. They showed pictures of Nicholas, and they showed the guy. They interviewed him. The way the documentary is made is very interesting too, because it interviewed him, it interviewed the family, but also did remakes of it, kind of. So it's
that's cool.
I don't know. It was very interesting how they did it.
Sorry. So how did the imposter? What's his name? Frederick. How did Frederick find out that they killed the son?
He said that they admitted it to him.
Wow.
But I don't know if I buy that, to be honest, because he's also a con artist.
That's true.
He's clearly a con man.
Yeah.
So I think my prediction is that I don't want to side with Frederick because I feel like he's very likely to make up a lie and say, I'm not really Nicholas. But what's worse is that they killed Nicholas just to get the attention off of him. But then how do you explain them just welcoming in Frederick like he's Nicholas? Something. Well, they must know something.
Because I was gonna say they might be thinking okay, this is it's a great cover. We'll deal with this kid for a couple of years.
That's right. That's what I mean. All right, good.
Because maybe they spent those 3 years oh god, we murdered him. They're gonna catch on to us.
Right. Yeah. And now this is a perfect cover saying we couldn't have killed him because
yeah.
he's right here. This French boy.
American.
And then the weirdest part of the documentary was at the very end. They show Frederick Nicholas trying to blend in, whatnot. And at the very end, they show him in this insane asylum. One of the best dancers I've ever seen. He's dancing like Michael Jackson. Wow. He was so good. It was awesome. So weird. Never referenced the whole movie until the end credits. He's just dancing like a madman.
That's great.
Isn't that so weird?
Yeah. So in the end credits, they basically just say no one knows.
So there's an investigator that was on it. The way that they fished him out was first the beard thing, and then they hired this investigator because it was child protective services so they weren't detectives. They hired this guy, and he's sitting down in an interview, and he's sitting down watching Frederick do an interview as Nicholas because this is famous case. Oh, he's back after 3 years. He was in another country. It's crazy.
He's a dark beard.
And and they see that the detective sees that his ears are a different shape than Nicholas's ears.
Tough to change that.
And he buys the theory that the family killed him. And he went to the house that the family was living at when Nicholas went missing, and he was digging up in the backyard.
Oh, wow.
The body has yet to be found to this day.
Jeez.
It's crazy.
But
so did Frederick have a cover for how he got to France in the first place when he was still claiming to be the kid?
The way they he would sit down and do interviews, and the way the journalist would say it was
that's a good
he was
point.
Chloroformed or whatever, and kidnapped and got there.
Okay.
And because it was a good cover up, he said I remained silent the whole time because in their head I was just this abused kid. They feel bad trying to make me talk. Mm-hmm. So even when he saw his family, he didn't say anything. Like, he would just be super quiet. He never talked about what happened to him, how he got there, where he got this weird beard from. He didn't even have the same colored eyes. Like, if you're a mother, listen, I'm no mother. Andrew, you have a few kids. You're a father. But still, if you're a mother, you would know what color eyes your kids have.
Yeah.
And you
believe
would
me,
know
I would
in
know.
a split second if this is your son or not, even if it has been 3 years.
Yeah.
What is going on there?
That's true.
That's super creepy.
Isn't that insane?
But what?
It's creepy already that he gets into America as a imposter and then gets into a family as someone who's 6 years younger, 7 years younger.
Frederick had to know, like, he got so lucky, you know? Like, most people would immediately just be like, no. Like, he must have been freaking out when they were like, oh my God,
he said,
because he has to know that they don't buy it. But
what he said was, he fakes the phone call. He gets into this house, whatever. This is basically an orphanage.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Oh, I'm American." Gets a sneaky way to get into America.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they say like, "All right, Nicholas, your sister's here," he was like, "I think that's how con artists work. They're like, listen, the other option is like living on the streets again. So I'll just like fake my way one step further. Then he was like, all right, Nicholas, your sister's here. He's like, there's no more steps. Like, she's gonna know I'm not him. I'm just gonna go for it. And then she was like, oh, Nicky boy, you're back. Like, she went for it.
Because you're right. Like, worst case, like, would he get arrested for that? Probably not. Like, it's not like
he was arrested.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Are you kidding me, dude?
Well,
why wouldn't he get arrested?
I guess it's just because I can't think of the name of the crime.
I don't know. I thought maybe fraud, but definitely he got into the country.
I guess.
He
Yeah.
got into the country without a passport.
Just like being a jerk. Okay, yeah. He definitely broke the laws.
But yeah, I don't know. It was insane. Like by the end, when you hear like, he was like, yeah, they told me they killed him. It's like, because like. You can't trick someone into thinking you're their son.
Yeah, that's wild.
Why would they tell him that though? He's clearly.
That's why I don't fully buy that they told him that. I think that's something because they said that when he was released from prison, he tried to steal the identity of another 14-year-old kid. It's not like he looked 14.
Yeah,
he looked like, I guess he probably looked young, like a teenager.
Jeez. Young enough where that was like an option. That was something he considered.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
I highly recommend it. It's very interesting. It's just creepy. It's just very dark and creepy.
What happened to both of them at the end?
Nicholas never has been found.
The family
is just sad that they never found Nicholas. They're upset that they were tricked.
Never were like prosecuted.
No, because the body was never found. They weren't charged with murder or anything.
And then
what the theory from the investigator, I believe, was Nicholas had like this stepbrother or older brother that was like a druggie and whatever. They think that he killed him, hid the body. And that the sister didn't know, so because she had this whole innocent act, and that the mother knew and was just didn't want to admit it. I don't know. But then Frederick is married and has kids.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Wait, but what was the insane asylum thing? That was just
they showed him. I don't know. It looked like an insane asylum because he was.
It might have just been a dance studio.
So well,
and now he's fine.
No, they showed him like in handcuffs walking up to it, and then they cut to him like dancing. We'll look it up. It's on YouTube. It's crazy.
And then. So now he's like living a regular life.
He's married with kids. Yeah.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy.
That is crazy.
In America or in?
No, I think in
probably
France.
Okay, I went back.
That freaks me out, dude.
Yeah,
That's like
crazy.
creepy. I guess that's what documentaries do.
I think even if I haven't talked to even seen some of my friends from high school in years, but if someone came up to me and was like, "Hey, I'm Tim from high school," and it wasn't them, I would know in an instant.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You know? And that's not even my son I'm talking about.
I know, like, I have, like, a family friend that I hadn't seen in, like, 10 years. And I, like, bumped into her at a bar. And I was like, do you know who I am? And she knew right away. You know? But it could be because of, like, Facebook. But it's, like.
Still, yeah.
It's, like, yeah, like, I recognize. You know, it's, like, the same thing.
That's why for years I thought this was. Because I saw this, like, in 2012 or whenever it came out. And for years I thought, like, I didn't even want to recommend it as a documentary because I thought it was fake. I thought, it's like a fake story that they just filmed as a documentary to like make it seem creepier. But it's not. And then I watched it last night again. It's like, oh, this is real. This is like legit.
Dang.
Oh, it's so weird.
Creepy. All right. I'd say I'm interested, but I feel like you've told me enough, Alex, where I probably won't watch it now.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would, if like other people wanted to watch, maybe I'd watch with them. But
yeah.
I'm not going to seek it out. But if you just prompted this, like, there's this kid who appeared in, woo.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very good.
It sounds great.
I would recommend it.
All right.
I'd say I'm more interested in that than Grizzly Man, simply because like Grizzly Man kind of creeps me out a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like Like Grizzly Man.
Creeps me out in a different way than this movie.
Yeah,
No,
yes,
I agree.
somehow.
Like both.
This is an
both
appealing,
similarly.
creepy movie to me. That one's a cringy,
Ugh.
creepy movie.
It's really Grizzly Man's also weird because like you can't help but like laugh because the guy is like,
It's like,
so
yeah,
funny.
He's an
Like
insane person.
Yeah.
intentionally or unintentionally. But I don't know. I would really recommend Grizzly Man. So.
All right. Should we rate it? I guess we've already rated.
We can rate.
documentaries.
I mean, we already rated documentaries, but we could rate our own.
Should we rate it this time on a scale from 1 to 5, as we do in our letterboxed movie app?
I would do that.
I would
Wait,
do
what?
that.
Each specific one? I think I already rated mine actually.
Yeah.
I was I've been tossing back and forth on what to give.
I
Grizzly
believe
So
I
Man.
gave-
fans of the show
I
don't know,
gave mine a 4, I
we
believe.
all, and you guys should all get on this app, Letterboxd, where we rate
Mhm.
reviews and leave reviews and movies we're watching.
Mhm. Chris very frequently is watching bad rom-coms.
worst.
I would
bad
say.
rom-coms.
Chris
I'd
has
say is
never
my-
left a review that's over 2 stars.
That's true. Mostly just because I seek out the bad movies. What did I give Minimalism? I gave it 3 stars. Hey, 3 out of 5. I guess that would translate to 6 out of 10 in our normal rating
Mhm.
system.
That's fair.
Good
I'd
math.
say it was a good movie. Nothing incredibly appealing about it. There was a couple little clips. There was a couple little plot lines that were very exciting. One thing I left out that I'll just touch on real quick is there was this guy who was like gonna be like a hotshot Wall Street like partner, like about to make millions of dollars,
Mhm.
and he had this moment where he was like, "Once I say yes to this job, I'll never be able to get out because
Yeah.
like, well, like I'm. How can you say no to that much
Yeah,
money?"
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he just left that day and
Wow.
quit, and I was like, "Damn, that like was like the best
And he bought
moment in the story for me."
one single sturdy pair of socks.
Exactly.
And he was off.
And he- so I
All
don't
right,
know.
3 stars.
Definitely things to like, but I wouldn't like push it on someone.
Yeah. What'd you give Grizzly Man, Andrew?
I've been
What would you-
thinking about it. I feel like I really got to make sure, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go 5 out of 5 stars.
Wow.
I was
Nice.
thinking 4.5 or 5 when I watched it last night, but there's something really interesting to me about like it's basically a case study on a person,
Yeah.
and I like things like The Imposter, like what you're saying, Alex, where it's kind of like a thriller, like what's gonna happen. But in this one, like I don't know, I've always been more like into movies that are about characters and
Right.
like
So I was gonna say there's different
Yeah.
genres of documentaries.
exactly like
There's
thi-
like Chris's, which is like informational.
yeah.
Yours, where it's just like, I don't know. What you
Mine
describe
is
it.
like it's like a character study on like a mentally ill person basically, and yours
And
is
then
like
mine's
a thriller.
It's telling the story of it.
Yeah, like this is a true story kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
I loved it. I just can't recommend it enough. I mean, I'm probably in like a week I'll be like, oh yeah, it was okay, but no, that's not true. It was just
All
it's
right,
just
all
too
right,
good.
all right. I give
5
mine
out of 5.
4. I might bump it up to 4.5,
Mhm.
but it's around there. It was very good.
Nice.
All right. Should we get into a quick next section of the
We
show?
can do it. We can do
Yeah,
it.
let's
All right.
rapid fire.
Next section of the show, we're gonna do a quick version of it. It's called "What's on Your Mind." Every week we still
I miss those days.
like to start with a theme song from a fan. So this one, thankfully, we got one from Timothy T.
I love you. 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 I'm sorry.
Oh boy. Thanks, Timothy. Creepiest thing I've ever heard.
That was after his interaction with the Grinch.
All right.
Thanks, Timothy.
Thanks for sending that in. Before your passing.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Jeez, Chris.
All right. So this week on What's on Your Mind, we're going to do a lightning round version where we just go quick through it. And we're going to do another pet peeves one, which we've done in the past. I
Heck yeah.
believe.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Andrew, you want to start?
I'll start. Classic lightning round pet peeve. Classic pet peeve that you're gonna say, Andrew is so weird and annoying, and I hate him.
I like how you think that's what a classic thing is. Something
I
where
mean, I feel
He's
like
right, though.
whatever. To me, it is when people. You guys might know this about me. This is my go-to pet peeve. My least favorite thing ever. People drinking the milk out of the cereal bowl after they
What?
have the cereal. Disgusting to me. Can't watch it. Can't watch it.
You have something wrong
This is
with
the
liquids.
definition of a pet peeve, dude. It's you know,
irrational.
you have to. Yeah, that's what a pet peeve is. Like it's very irrational
I don't think
usually.
that's true.
Well, this is it. This is my go-to. It grosses me out. I
And you
can't
have something
stand
wrong
it.
because you don't like soup either.
Yeah, that's something about
it's
it.
a liquid bowl situation.
cereal-
But it's like
soup.
to me, it's gross. Like it's like a dog, dude. You like take the bowl
They're
and
not
like
lapping it.
and like yeah, it's just disgusting to me. Don't do that.
Do you not like the idea of the cereal taste in the milk, or is it just the
Yes,
drink from the bowl?
everything slurping.
But
So, like,
you'll
cereal-
spoon of
hypothetically-
cereal taste in the
Hypothetically, like
milk.
I'll say I don't eat cereal that often, but like I'm a fan of a cinnamon toast crunch milk situation with
Disgusting.
out of a cup even.
Absolutely disgusting.
A cup is
That's
drinking that out of
nasty.
a cup
Would you
is
drink
weird.
a horchata, a similar type drink?
It's
All
not
right.
like a coffee drink.
Let's say you're
It's
eating
like milk
cereal.
cinnamon situation.
Eating cereal. What's your go-to cereal? Chex or something? You weirdo.
I'd probably say my go-to cereal would probably be Honey Nut Cheerios.
All right.
Okay.
You're eating
Yeah.
Honey Nut
It's a
Cheerios,
decent
and
milk
you're
in
getting to
that.
the last few rings, right?
Yeah.
Cheerios, if
Yep.
you will. And you go to grab one, and you're looking up, talking to someone.
All
He's
milk.
like, hey, what's up? You miss. You don't see it, but you miss a Cheerio, and you get all milk. I know. It's like, would you go? Oh, it's disgusting.
I would not like that, but I'd be fine with it.
Would
to
you-
me, to me, the issue
It's the
is when
action.
someone takes the bowl and starts like downing
bad.
it. It's
Wow,
disgusting.
Interesting.
Absolutely disgusting.
All right. Weird.
That's my pet peeve. Yeah.
I agree. Like, I hate hearing people eat cereal. I hate hearing people eat.
Yeah.
Period. But specifically cereal. So maybe it's a similar thing.
Yeah.
I think it is related to my soup phobia as well.
It's a
Yeah.
hey, it's a breakfast soup, baby.
True.
All right, Chris.
Here's mine. It's very particular and something I've been dealing with lately. There's a Keurig machine in my office, and I'll say my pet peeve is when people don't take out their pod that they used. Because so basically the way it's set up is like Keurig for everyone, a bunch of the pods. You put it in, you make your coffee, you walk away. There's been this cycle of no one takes
get me
their
so
own
mad.
personal one out. So it's like you have to take yours out, and then you put one in, and then I'm thinking like, do I have to throw mine out too? I already threw one out.
Yeah,
it's
you
just
gotta
like
throw
this
it
is just
out.
like a dryer lint situation.
Yeah, I think you
Yeah.
got to do your own.
I'd say you just do it when you.
There's all.
No, what I would say. No, I
You
wouldn't
gotta
say you do
it.
your own.
No, you definitely do your own.
Yeah, I think so too.
And then if there's one in there, you have to take it out because you have to put
Yeah.
your own in.
Okay, I think it is. I agree, but I think in the sorry, I was doing my own example. In the dryer situation, I just clean it after I get my. No, do you?
I feel like that's.
I know. I do
because-
it before. I do
Do
it
you have to
before.
I do it
the
before.
dryer-
I do it before as well.
I don't know.
You don't have to clean it every time, right?
I think it's recommended, but you don't really have to.
Because I don't.
Unless you want your
I go
house
to
to
a
catch on
laundry.
fire.
I go to a laundromat. Do I have to clean the? I don't even know where that is.
No, that's not your
question.
job at a laundromat.
Okay,
I
'Cause
think you're. Sorry. Back to the point. You guys are right.
but
you
that's
guys are
yeah.
right.
That one is different because if you clean it before,
Mhm.
you're not supposed to clean it after. I know. I'm
I don't
questioning
know.
myself.
I don't know.
All right,
I
but
don't know.
you're.
But I guess that is like
that
kind
is
of
a
similar
classic
thing.
pet peeve because you take the pod out, put yours in, and then
Yeah.
if you don't take yours out, even
Yeah.
though you took one out beforehand,
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
upset.
you look like a jerk. It's like
And
when you're
then-
parking your car next to someone who parked poorly.
Yeah.
Then it makes you look like you parked poorly.
Yeah.
And then I'll say a similar thing is there's a water fountain of sorts at my work, like one of those like fancy ones where you like, it's just like a water
Is that,
dispenser.
it has a sensor to it.
But
Can
it
you drink?
has-
Can you drink out of it
No.
without a bottle?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
But
well, you look like a real jerk if you try to.
the base of it isn't like a it's not like a normal bubbler. It fills up. Like there isn't like a filter that like
Yep, yep.
gets the runoff. So water will just fill up and eventually overflow.
Yeah.
And it's a similar thing where I feel like no one else knows that except for me in the entire building. So every time I go, I end up dumping out this whole thing of water, and people are like, "Whoa."
Oh, God, that would get me.
I don't know why
That's
am
a tough
I
one.
all of a sudden the
janitor.
captain, the janitor of all of these weird drink
That's a
dispensing?
tough one. But you know what's even worse?
Yeah.
When you that pod thing, you could find it's when you find
Yeah.
out you're someone else's pet peeve. Like whoever's
Yeah,
doing that pod
that's true.
thing, it's not like they're a
It's
jerk.
not malicious.
They're a normal person.
It's like,
They
what am I-
it probably just skips their mind sometimes.
What am I gonna do? Send like a reply all email? Like,
You could do
clean
that.
out your freaking pods. Yeah, I don't
That's
know.
like such an office pet peeve too.
Yeah, such a
Yeah.
person in accounting.
That's too bad.
All right, Alex.
All
Been
right.
talking about a pet peeve you've had for a
I
bit.
went to Dunkin' Donuts the other day.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to even explain. Like I can't put into words this pet peeve. And someone was in line, right? But they're kind of off to the side. Someone else goes. I had already got my coffee. I'm just standing there watching this happen. And then someone else walks in, and they don't realize this guy's in line, so they go up to the counter and start ordering.
Mm-hmm.
And the other guy goes, "Oh," or he doesn't really say, but she looks and goes, "Oh, sorry, were you in line?" And he goes, "Yeah, but you know what? Go ahead, don't worry."
Hate that.
And she goes,
Yeah.
"Oh no, don't worry." And he goes, "No, I insist. And she goes, "No, please, I insist." It's like when two people get into an argument about like who's the nicest one.
Yeah.
It gets me so mad. Like no one's gonna think you're a jerk after they say I insist.
my
If you
quick-
do it, just get it over with.
My little
Now you're just
analysis,
killing
quick
time.
take is immediately. I had a reaction when you said that guy said like yes, but forget about it. That immediately puts everyone in an awkward position.
Yeah,
Like,
right?
You just need to like
Oh,
say
I hate
like,
that.
oh yeah, I was in line, or like, I guess
Just
you're
say
right.
yes,
I
you
think
were.
I think
especially-
you just have to say
It's
yes.
like the holding doors thing.
Lying
When
is
someone
wicked
tries
funny.
to hold the door from the wrong side
Yeah.
just to pretend they're a nice
Oh yeah, I
person.
remember you said that.
Like, just don't do that. Just
Yeah.
hold it from the right spot. It's the same thing. That guy's just trying to be a nice person, but like,
Yeah.
you're just putting everyone else a step further back, and now we
It's
have
like
to
the person who
solve
will,
this logic puzzle of who gets to order.
Wait
first.
for everyone at a always stop. Just continue
Yeah,
waiting.
exactly.
Yeah, I'd say
Don't.
a slight variance is like I was in a situation the other day at a grocery store where I was the person who did this. Like I cut the line and then realized I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like
Right.
I got ahead of you. And I had like 3 things and they had like 50. And they're like, oh, no, you can go. And I was like, no. And they're like, no, like actually go. And then I was like, you're right. Like,
I'm at the point in my life where if I cut them, I'll apologize and say, "Oh, sorry, my bad," and I'll go to the back of the line.
Yeah.
But if they say, "Oh no, don't worry, I insist," I'm not even gonna bat an eye. I'm gonna
that's
go.
true.
I
Yeah.
don't think that's being a bad person.
Yeah.
They insisted, for Christ's sake.
Exactly.
You're just wasting everyone's time if you have a nice guy battle about it.
Imagine if they got in like a legit fight. Like, no, I'm gonna
Yeah,
go.
that's what it felt like it was climaxing to.
That's crazy.
Oh man. Cool.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
All right,
Quick
Chris,
lightning round.
you want to hit us with? If you guys have any pet peeves or anything on your mind, email us at ineedahobbypod@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Chris, you want to hit us with those plugs?
Sure. So you can check us out on ineedahobbypod.com. All of our episodes are there. Rate and review us on iTunes.
Please.
We're on Spotify these days.
Oh yeah, make
Very
a documentary about us. if you
Sure.
want.
That'd be great.
Could be good.
Oh man. If anyone's very free this summer.
Here's something I gotta say. By the time this episode is released, Chris is gonna be in Colorado.
Sure.
Oh, yeah,
Oh yeah. Hey, I'll plug my vacation.
We can talk about that next
Going to
Pretty
Denver.
exciting.
Going to Estes Park.
Nice.
I'll send some updates.
Yeah. You should send some updates.
Maybe I'll post some stuff on the Snapchat
Yeah,
story.
you should,
I need
you
a
should.
hobby pod, or maybe on Instagram or Twitter.
Nice.
I need a hobby pod as well.
Here we go.
Yeah.
All right. See you next week.